President Donald Trump has drawn a firm line on Ukraine, saying that the United States will not have troops as part of any deal to end Russia's war on Ukraine. On Monday, he left some room for ambiguity, hinting that the United States' participation in a European-led mission was not entirely off the table. But a day later, in an interview with Fox News, the president gave assurances that American boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine.
You have my assurance. And I'm president. I'm just trying to stop people from being killed. They're losing 5,000 to 7,000 people a week in that ridiculous war.
Now, the position was later reinforced by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who said the U.S. will help coordinate security guarantees for Ukraine, but the guarantees being discussed cannot be NATO.
The president has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies. The president understands security guarantees are crucially important to ensure a lasting peace, and he has directed his national security team to coordinate with our friends in Europe and also to continue to cooperate and discuss these matters with Ukraine and Russia as well.
Now, after ruling out sending U.S. troops into Ukraine, President Trump hinted that the country could provide air support as part of any potential agreement to help in Russia's war. Now, the details of this support, he said, were still being worked out as Washington and its partners continued discussions on military assistance for Ukraine. The president also issued a warning saying that the conflict could become a rough situation if Russian President Putin does not cooperate on peace efforts. It was also announced earlier that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead the newly formed joint commission that will work on forging security guarantees as a proposal for Kyiv. The commission will be made up of U.S., Ukrainian, European, and NATO officials. And President Trump said European nations will be the first line for providing security guarantees.
I think that the European nations are going to take a lot of the burden. We're going to help them, and we're going to make it very secure. We also need to discuss the possible exchanges of territory, taking into consideration the current line of contact.
Meanwhile, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer floated the idea of an international peacekeeping force in Ukraine ranging from a few hundred observers to a contingent of tens of thousands. Now, much of the focus now is on security guarantees for Ukraine, in which European nations, along with U.S. support, are working out commitments to provide protection without granting NATO membership. President Donald Trump described Monday's meeting with EU and NATO leaders as a very good early step toward ending the conflict, now in its fourth year. But he also signaled difficult compromises ahead. He also says that Zelensky must accept that reclaiming Crimea seized by Russia in 2014 and joining NATO are right now impossible. Now, Moscow, in turn, is pressing for Kyiv to withdraw forces from Donetsk and Luhansk and to formally recognize Crimea as Russian territory. On Tuesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that land swaps are often critical in conflict settlements and that Russia has never talked about seizing territories.
I would like to emphasize once again that we have never talked about the need to seize any territories. Neither Crimea, nor Donbass, nor Novorossiya as territories have ever been our goal. Our goal was to protect Russian people who lived on these lands for centuries, discovered these lands, and shed blood for them. They founded cities in Crimea and in Donbass, such as Odessa, Nikolaev, many others. Cities, ports, factories, plants.
Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky left Washington on Monday without a signed deal, but with some progress. He cited plans for Ukraine to purchase $90 billion worth of American weapons through Europe as part of new security guarantees. And later during the day, President Trump revealed that he called Vladimir Putin during the summit for a 40-minute conversation. The president says he's already started arranging a face-to-face meeting between Putin and Zelensky with the possibility of a later three-way summit involving himself. Now, Zelensky has expressed openness to such a meeting, but the Kremlin downplayed it, saying talks will stay at the level of senior negotiators. Meanwhile, reports stated that Russian President Putin has proposed holding a peace summit with Zelensky in Moscow, a proposal that Zelensky has reportedly rejected. Still, as the White House seeks ways to move a workable peace agreement forward, the stakes are enormous, both for Ukraine's survival as well as Europe's security and of course, most important of all, America's credibility and standing.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karjo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 trilhões.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select the language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.